Always been one of my favorite guests, going back to the mothership. Steve Young, Hall of Famer, ESPN NFL analyst, 3-time Super Bowl champ. Paulie, do you have the scouting report on Steve from the Combine before I bring him on?
Yeah, back in early 80s, Gil Brandt was taking notes on Steve Young. He listed him at 6 foot even and 6 foot and 1/2 inch, 205. The 40-yard dash he had from him, his hand time was 4.55 seconds for a 40.
Okay. Let's bring in Steve Young. Does that sound right, Steve? 4.55 for the 40?
Seems slow, Dan. Seems slow to me. I was faster than that in college. Gil had a slow watch. Let's be honest. You knew that. And then 6 foot 1/2 inch. I mean, look at my football card, Dan. It says 6'2". I mean, if you want to know accuracy, look at a football card.
What? I've been around you. You're not 6'2", Steve.
Football cards don't lie. Football. The funny thing is, football cards is when you start out of the league, they give you a sheet, you fill it out, and that's what they use. So I wrote down 6'2" because if you ask me, am I 6'2", I would pass a lie detector test saying yes, I am 6'2". But Gil Brandt, of course, thinks that he's gonna shrink me down because I'm didn't go play for the Cowboys. So whatever.
Did you want to play for the Cowboys?
Roger Staubach was my hero.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was Roger. I mean, all the posters you have in your bedroom, and Roger he had that action picture of Roger. I remember it, and the ball. He started to run, and the ball was out here, and you could see. Well, I'm lefty, but he was righty, and his hand and his fingers on the ball were just, you could see it perfectly. And I remember spending hours on. I had the ball, and I'd put my fingers, and I'd go, oh, right there, yeah, right there. It's funny about heroes, Dan, because I remember when I was growing up, Roger Staubach was super influential to me. I mean, I tried to talk like him. I tried to run like him. And the thing is, he didn't know me. And it's like people say, oh, I'm not responsible for raising your kids, or I'm not responsible. Well, I'm trying to pay it forward for what Roger did for me in my whole life, just because I think that's my experience. So Roger was much more than a poster on the wall. That was for sure.
But did you think about if let's say Dallas had the rights or could have drafted you, let's put it that way, would you have maybe bypassed the USFL?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. I mean, I when Cincinnati had the first pick and Sam Weiss came out and told me they were going to use me for it, and I had John Hadel and Sid Gilman, Don Klosterman, who had just left the Rams in L.A., and I could go play right away in L.A. Gary Zimmerman, my buddy that I'd met on the All-Star games, was going to be my right tackle. He ended up being a Pro Football Hall of Famer. There were so many guys that were young and really good players. So I kind of believed Don Klosterman and Sid Gilman telling me that he could teach me how to play quarterback, and that was some big stuff. And rather than just go sit behind Ken Anderson or whatever they were going to do, but if it was Dallas, yeah, I think that might have won the day.
Is there a bias against left-handed quarterbacks?
Yeah, there has to be, Dan. I mean, just the numbers. I mean, there's 10% of the country is left-handed, and 0% of quarterbacks in the NFL are left-handed. Other than now, Tua showed up after 5 or 6 years of nobody.
But what's the difference on the field, though, Steve?
The difference is an advantage. Everything in football is right-handed. Every coach puts up the play right-handed. Every play is run right-handed first. Everything is right-handed. So a lefty, I always felt like, it was like linebackers would, you could see that they were like, well, they weren't sure where, it was just a little bit of an advantage. But I remember in college, Doug Scoville was my offensive coordinator at BYU and a freshman, and he didn't know my name. I was like 8th string. He saw me in like November of my freshman year at the end of the season. I ran into him and he said, "Hey, Young." And I was like, "Oh, he knows my name." And he goes, "By the way, I don't coach lefties." And I was like, "Well, so much for that." That's not what I'd heard. And but he was serious. But he ended up going to San Diego State a month later, and Ted Tollner came in to run the offense, and I'd moved to defense because Lavelle Edwards was moving over there because couldn't coach lefties.
Wait.
And
You're a defensive back?
for about 2 weeks in January in winter meetings, Tom Homo was the defensive captain, and he was teaching me how to backpedal. And because they said, look, you're fast, you're 4.55, Gilbert. You could go tackle everybody, and so I was like, all right, I guess I have no choice. And then Ted Tollner came in. I kept throwing the football because I was loving learning how to throw it really. Jim McMahon had shown me how to release the ball and really put power on it. I never really learned in high school. And then when I learned that, I was like, I just want to throw the football. It's amazing how it feels and what I could do, and I could put it right there, you know. And Ted Tollner said, "Why did you move to defense?" I go, "Because I'm lefty." And Ted Tollner, what are you, an idiot? What do you mean we're going? No, they told me I couldn't play a quarterback because I was lefty. And he goes, "That's stupid." He went in and saw Lavelle, and then he said, "Look, I negotiated for spring ball for 4 weeks of spring ball. The first 2 weeks you're going to play quarterback, and if that doesn't work out, then you can go back to defensive back." And by the end of the 2 weeks, I was backing up Jim McMahon, and there you have it. So lefties, but there has to be, Dan, a bias against lefties because there's none around. That's just crazy.
But I also wonder, when you think of a lefty, we normally don't think that they have great velocity. You know, it feels like they have touch. They have touch. You know, Kenny Stabler had touch. No, I'm just saying.
Well, look, you've got a sample size of 3.
I know. Michael Vick could throw it.
Michael Vick could throw it. Okay, I get you, Shane. I mean,
Tua is a finesse guy.
Look, I understand there's like not a fastball out there, but for getting the job done, and I mean, Joe Montana, even, you know, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, I mean, there's not a fastball in there right now, right? So I don't know what you're looking for, the Jeff George special.
No, I'm not. Did I just offend
you? Where
you?
you headed, Dan?
I just
you got the bias as well. I see. You're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution.
Wow. My apology. My apologies. I'm sorry to all left-handed quarterbacks out there. I apologize.
You can see I'm not emotional about it at all.
No. Do you toss the ball? When's the last time you actually played catch or threw the ball?
Last night with Justin Jefferson and Randy Moss.
Well, I mean
you missed me dancing the gritty. I don't know what you got. Do you watch sports, Dan? I don't know if we're the pregame show of record. I don't know why you would miss that.
What show were you on? Oh, you're on that Fox show, yeah.
Monday night.
Oh, Monday night.
ESPN Monday night
ESPN.
countdown. I can't believe that. That is just disrespectful. No wonder you hate lefties. I can see that now.
I do. But you know why I know what Montana's doing?
I backed you in the corner. You had to come out shooting with both guns. You're like, I know. What can I do?
I know.
Young's got me in the corner. Now where do I go? I gotta fire. I gotta fire as hard as I can.
How close did Jim McMahon come to getting tossed out of BYU?
I remember Lavelle Edwards was a masterful human being. He was a phenomenal human. He could see the good in people. He could work the system and give people opportunities. And Jim McMahon, I remember him calling in Jim and saying, "Jim, man, come on! Like, if you're gonna throw a party like that, you got to do it in Park City. You can't do that. You can't do it in Provo, man. You got to go to Park City." And Jim's like, yeah, okay, yeah. And but he just. Lavelle saw the good in everybody, and Jim had a lot of good. He was a funny, good guy. He was crazy, but he was a good human, and BYU's better for having him around. So, but I did see some things I've never seen ever since. By the way, people always say, "What's the wildest thing you've ever seen in your life?" Or "Where were you? Where were you?" I was like, "I was in Provo, Utah."
And what did you see?
Let's not. Let's just leave it that Jim McMahon threw some crazy stuff. So,
but you didn't go to the parties, did you?
I popped in. I was invited. I popped in.
It always
checked it out. Checked it out. I thought, holy cow!
Did you ever hear Deion talking about when he first got to the Cowboys, and Michael Irvin was throwing a party at a hotel suite, and Deion shows up, and he says, "Mike, I don't do that stuff. I don't live like this." And he turned around and walked out of the hotel room.
Deion, Deion is I remember him joining the 49ers, and everyone was worried about what kind of teammate Deion would be, and because no one knew him really well because he'd been in Atlanta, and knew he was a phenomenal football player, but not sure about a teammate. And he walked in and he said, "Look, Steve, I am a masterclass PR guy, so don't be fooled. I know what I'm doing there, but don't pay attention. Don't get involved in it. I'm going to be the best teammate you ever had." And I remember that's a heck of a statement, and it was true. It was like, just don't pay attention to all the stuff going on. I'm going to take care of in the locker room. I got your back. And he was a phenomenal teammate, very underrated locker room guy. He was an amazing football player and an amazing kind of athlete. And I mean, not just athlete physically, like an emotional athlete. Like he could be, go do the Deion thing, and then he could do two things at once. He could be a phenomenal teammate, and he could be out there doing his kind of marketing maven stuff.
But I wonder though, with the emphasis on offense, if Deion is coming up now, is he a wide receiver?
Well, what about the kid he just got signed? I mean, what he told him. Look, the same kind of thing. I mean, Deion's very influential, and the kid's going to play defensive back. When it sounds like he's one of the great athletes of all time, why didn't he play receiver? In fact, funny you answered that question, Dan. Just the other day, I was asking. I said to myself when he signed the kid. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but
Travis Hunter.
Travis. So he goes to Jackson State. I mean, I was trying to think of how Deion sold him, and I could sit there. I could hear him selling him. I could hear how good he would be, and how he could tell him, all the things that get him to come to Jackson State. Can you imagine being the number one recruit going to Georgia or Florida State, and they said, no, I'm going to Jackson State.
Yeah.
I mean, how good you want to know how good Deion is right there.
Well, it's really DSU. It's Deion Sanders University. He's going to play for Deion, and if Deion happens to get another job, it feels like that's a package deal.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool what historically black colleges, what Deion's doing for those schools.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just one school. It feels like Deion's, kind of leading the way for 10 schools, which is pretty. I guess I'm making my point for you.
Yeah.
As I continue to talk about Deion, he's quite a human.
I was watching you break down Justin Fields, that he tries to do too much.
Oh, now you're going to say you watched the show, even though you don't even know where. Okay, I see where you're going. Go ahead.
I did watch that. You did. Okay. You did break down Justin Fields, right? And you said that he was trying too hard. Young quarterbacks try too hard. What advice would you give Justin Fields?
The advice I give any what I'll call dual threat quarterbacks that are good runners who can throw. They've got to graduate to throwers who can run. And the job in the NFL is to throw the football in the pocket.
How long did it take you?
It's a process, but it's more of I'm telling you, Sid Gilman, we go back to the USFL, one of the best things he ever did was, I'd run around and make plays and, run for first downs. And he'd be like, what the hell? What are you doing? No one knows where you're going. No one knows what you're doing. No one, what? Stand in there and throw the football. And I'm like, what do you mean stand and throw the football? I'm not going to take a sack and, I can go run around and make something happen. What are you talking about? He goes, you don't understand. When you call a play in the huddle, the play matters. Stuff matters. You got to get it the full measure of the play. You leave too early. And so one time I ran around, and he got irritated. He goes, go get a rope. Someone give me a rope. Someone got a jump rope or something that was laying around. He goes, he got a rope. He stopped practice. He tied my legs together. It was more ceremonial, you know what I mean? But he was like telling me what I would want to tell Justin Fields, what I would want to tell Michael Vick, which I did tell Michael Vick, what I would tell anybody who could run around and throw the football. You have to be like Mac Jones. Mac Jones is not going anywhere. Mac Jones has to figure out a way to be a phenomenal, sophisticated throw the football from the pocket. And you have to be Mac Jones for some time so that you can, I'm not saying Mac Jones is going to be spectacular. I'm just saying you have to be the guy that can't move. You have to tie your legs up, kind of mentally, so that you actually are forced to sit in there and figure out how to get the ball out of the pocket, like out of your hand. And I think once you start to learn that game and you can run around, that's when the danger really comes. I mean, that's when people, I see the young guys and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and they're getting there, and you can see how dangerous they are. And it was funny, Patrick Mahomes this year, really the challenge was the league, as what happened to us with the West Coast offense in the early 90s. It was so far ahead of everybody. Defenses finally said, forget it. Screw it. We're not just going to play zone. We're just going to back up. We're going to give you everything short, but we're not going to get beat with you throwing all over the place and people running around while we're spinning around. We're not going to do that. We're going to put 22 eyeballs on the quarterback, and we're just going to wait and force you to be patient, force you to not make mistakes, and we'll force you to go, 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives. You can do it all day long, but you got to show the patience. And that's what that's what happened to the Chiefs this year. Defenses said, you know what, screw it. We're not Travis Kelce running all over the place, Tyreek Hill running deep, no more. Just back up and force you to play, be human. Just drop it off. And they struggled. Patrick struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
But they faced the challenge. Remember, was it late October they were losing games, or maybe it was middle October? Like, who are the Chiefs? What's going on? Well, the league said no more. And they had to adjust. And then they did. And now the league has no answer. I think the Chiefs are better today, more dangerous today than they've ever been, because they now have all the arrows in the quiver that they needed. The defenses go, well, we have no answer now.
I got to start watching this ESPN stuff. I think Steve is really breaking some stuff down here. Could you outrun Brady right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Tom.
Okay.
Tom's a good man, a good friend. But Tom, what I love about Tom, obviously amazing in so many things. How do you get started? But one of the things I love is when he rarely does throw an interception, a pick six. And Tom is super competitive, as you know, like white hot, super competitive. But his body turns to try to go clean up his mess because he means to, right? And he starts to run to do it, and he's like, "Oh, shit."
Why bother? Nobody's that slow that I'll catch him.
Forget that. And I guess, can I just take 1 minute and tip my cap to the great Tom Brady, because not only has he done what he's done, but he's done it from one spot. Like, I didn't have to do that. And there's a lot of guys that don't have to do that. And that is it. Peyton Manning had to do it from one spot. Dan Marino had to do it from one spot. That is not I would not want to live that way. I would playing the position and not being able to get around a little bit. Man, I just think it's amazing what they've done.
I want to let you plug what you're doing. You're the chairman of the board of Integrity, and you're gifting employees. Oh,
you're a good man. Yeah, go ahead.
So go ahead, give the plug.
Well, no, look, it's funny. I've transitioned 20 years ago now. I've been in private equity for longer than I played football, and one of our businesses, Integrity, is insurance business, and it's called Tech Insure. And what they've done is they sit in between the carriers and the insurance agents they create products for senior living, and it's really, you say it's a business, and but it's a good, cool business. But not only that, it's good people. And Brian Adams runs the business for us. And he came to me a couple years ago and he said, "Steve, I want to give equity to the employees. I want to make them owners of this business." And I remember when he did it, I thought, because I'd watched the NFL for years, Dan, and you know this because you're old enough to remember. There was days back in the 80s and 90s where, like, players and owners were like miles apart. Nobody. There was I remember in 1987 when we went on strike. I want to say it was the owner of the Giants. Somebody said, "Well, don't they understand the players? We're the owners and they're the chattel." And I remember thinking, I went to law school, bro. I know what chattel is, and that's not cool. Like that is not cool. But it was a guy like Eddie DeBartolo who finally said, "You know what? I want you as my partner. I want you as a part of my family." And then Robert Kraft and Arthur Blank, and our guys started to own teams that were like, look, I want to build a partnership with players. And in doing that, I think the CBA finally kind of caught up to that in the early 2000s. And you want to know why the league is so great today? You can say all kinds of things. I say it's because owners finally gave essentially profit sharing to the players. So when Brian said that to me, I said, that's a great idea, because when people feel like they're owners, they'll do anything because they feel like they're actually a part of this. And so he did it. And I don't know if there's any insurance company in the world that does this, but he gave $50 million out 2 years ago to get started on this program. And then we just finished another transaction with Silver Lake, Egon Durbin, the famous Egon Durbin. And now those employees, 5,500 employees now who had a stake in the business, have now made $125 million still with their stake. I mean, they're still making, and so, yes, it's a great way to give people a chance to feel that sense of ownership. And it's also a great place for companies. And so I guess the point that we came on the show, to be honest with you, Dan, is that there's a lot of people that own businesses. I highly suggest that you think about making employees owners of your business and start to share. And it was a good example to me too, to be honest with you. So that's the story. And, I appreciate you giving me a second to talk about it.
It's great to talk to you. And I'm going to start watching that football program that you're on.
Great. Daniel, I love being on with you. You asked me great questions. I could go on for an hour and laugh with you, and I appreciate it. And so anytime.
My best to the family. How many kids now?
4.
I
2
remember
in college.
You remember when you had your first, and then I think you said, why didn't you tell me what this was like?
Yeah, see, another thing you hid from me. I wish I had 5 or 6. I mean, I feel like I started late, and I mean, these kids are amazing. So, I mean, they're teaching me more. I have a couple athletes and a couple of one's in music theater, wants to be on Broadway. I mean, I was like, all right, he can sing. Like, how do you can sing? I mean, no one can sing. No one can sing in my family for generations. I mean,
you're known.
We went to Ancestry.com, and there is no singing genes anywhere. There's no connection, but the kid can sing. So that's awesome.
Well, hey, great to talk to you again. Thanks,
right,
and Merry Christmas, buddy.
You too, Merry Christmas.
All right, we'll take a break. Back after this.